The Washington County Quorum Court is now called into session. Good evening. As we get started, I do want to make sure, while I was not at the county services meeting a couple of weeks ago, I did see it and wanted to make sure we come back, and I visit with some of the JPs and talk to some of them on the phone, talk to some of you guys out in the audience. We're better than that, and so I really want to make sure that we are acting as leaders, especially around this horn. We've been elected to act in accordance, and so that will be our expectation. That's going to be the expectation. We want to hear from folks, and so we can't hear from folks if there's hollering and screaming. If you're being asked to come into the center to speak to me, speak directly to us, not to your fellow citizens, so we can at least have and be able to hear what you have to say. Because it's important for you to come and share, then we want to hear what you have to say. So obviously we have more security here, and the Sheriff's Department will do what they need. If people do get unruly, I'm not expecting that. I really do expect us to, again, really be what Washington County is all about. So with that, we'll go ahead and get our meeting started. J.P. Ecke, will you lead us in our prayer and pledge?
Will you join me in prayer? In the Gospel of John 10:10, Jesus, you spoke these words, "The thief comes but to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come that you may have life, and life to the fullest." You also said for us to acknowledge you in all of our ways, and you would direct our path. So we're acknowledging you as God of heaven and King of the universe. Direct our path, our words, and our hearts. And we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, with that, thank you, J.P. Ecke, and again, the hearts are still full and lifted. We're going to go ahead and look at the agenda. We have a motion to adopt the agenda. Are there any? J.P. Johnson and then J.P. Let me go with J.P. Johnson. Then I'll come back to you.
That wasn't my motion, Judge.
Pardon me?
That was not my motion.
Okay, so then J.P. Hires. Oh, so I'm again. Okay, go ahead, J.P. Johnson.
Do I have the floor?
Yep.
Thank you, Judge. I move that we amend the agenda by moving item 13 up on the agenda so that it appears right after number 7, the county judge's report.
Item 13. The resolution. All right, so there's a motion to move item 13 to item 8.
Second.
And a motion to, all right, any discussion? All right, any discussion? J.P. Hires?
I have a different motion.
Okay. All right, so let me just take that motion right now. Motion to move item 13 to item 8.
Unless it's a privilege motion, then her motion would go first.
It's a separate motion.
Is it a separate amendment?
It is a separate amendment, yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay. So that item 13 will move to item 8. J.P. Hires?
Yes, I'd like to move to pull items number 4 and number 9 off of the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, a motion to move item 4 and
Judge,
9.
it doesn't require a vote. If any JP wants to remove it, they're automatically removed.
All right, so item 4. Let me see, item 4, let's see, which one is that? Are you talking about on the consent agenda, J.P. Hires? Yeah, number 4 and number 9 are to be taken off and then read separate. Any discussion? All in favor?
No, there's no vote.
It just moved on, okay. So those two come off the consent agenda item. All right, so a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, moving item 13 to item 8, and then removing off the consent agenda item number 4 and item number 9. Motion
I move, excuse me, that the agenda be adopted
as amended.
as amended.
We have a motion to accept the adopted agenda as amended. Is there a second? And a second. All in favor? Aye. And those opposed? All right. We have the adoption of the agenda. Item 4, preliminary motions. We have a motion, preliminary motions. This is where someone would say, let's read the ordinances by title only, the resolution by title only. Oh, I didn't see you. I'm sorry. J.P. Duncan. Go ahead.
Judge, I move that we read by title only.
All right, you got a motion to read ordinances and resolutions by title only. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by J.P. Washington. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right. We'll be reading those by title only. Item 5, citizen comments. Again, at this point, we ask citizens to come and visit with us. We have allotted 15 minutes. You come and state your name, where you're from, and then you'll go ahead and share with us your compliments or concerns with the county. Come forward.
Good evening.
Push the little.
You see there you go.
Good evening.
Hold on, we got it. No, turn it back on. There you go.
Is it working?
There you go.
We are. Good evening. My name is Reverend Angela Williams, and I am here as an ordained Presbyterian pastor and a resident of Washington County to speak against Resolution 2020. I am against this resolution because my faith compels me to be pro-lives. I support this resolution's commitment to protecting all lives, and I would love for Washington County to protect all lives. Because of my deep faith convictions and my calling by God, I am pro-women's lives. I am pro-Black lives. I am pro-trans lives, pro-pregnant people's lives, pro-queer lives, pro-disabled lives, and pro-family lives. If Washington County is in the business of protecting lives, why don't we spend the $4 million in care funds to promote life-saving vaccinations against COVID-19? Why don't we use millions towards rental assistance for those who desperately need it in our community? That is life-saving work. But it doesn't seem like this court is actually interested in protecting lives. It seems like the court is more interested in playing partisan, theocratic games with real people's lives in the name of religion. Let's tell the truth about abortion. Abortion is normal health care that has been stigmatized in the name of religion. And now let me be clear. God does not hate abortion. Abortion saves lives. And God blesses people who have abortions. Abortion is already difficult to access in the state of Arkansas. There's only one clinic in the state, and it's not here in Washington County. This resolution is answering a problem that doesn't exist. It's a distraction from the real work of protecting the lives of Arkansans alive here and now. The real problems are the barriers and obstacles people face in accessing medical care during a global pandemic. Apparently, in Washington County, it is acceptable to quote Christian scripture in state policy. So I'll leave you with a note of scripture. Heed these words from Isaiah 10. Ah, you who make iniquitous decrees, who write oppressive statutes, to turn aside the needy from justice, and to rob the poor of my people their right, that widows may be your spoil, and that you may make the orphans your prey. What will you do on the day of punishment, in the calamity that will come from far away? To whom will you flee for help, and where will you leave your wealth, so as not to crouch among the prisoners or fall among the slain? For all this, his anger has not turned away, and his hand is outstretched still.
Thank you.
Vote no on Resolution 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Johnson. I live in Springdale, Arkansas. I'm an extremely happy wife of soon-to-be 29 years. And I'm also a joyful mother of 2 adult children who also live in this county, and I'm a constituent of this distinguished court. I would like to make it known to those present and to those who may try to use my words against me that I am very thankful to you justices who are standing up for what is right, good, and equitable to all. In my estimation, the real reason there's any pushback on this issue of preserving and protecting life is solely based on fear. As I'm writing this in the comfort of my own home, I'm gripped with what could be mistaken as fear, but yet I push through because perfect love throws off fear. Fear is only a tactic. Once fear is realized, it is easier to overcome. Simply put, fear is sleight of hand or smoke and mirrors, a very old tactic, by the way. Allow me a few words about my personal experience talking with post-abortion women. When they talk about their current pregnancies, they themselves will offer the information through tears. Their experience of choosing or forced upon them abortion rather than choosing to give life. No one shames them. No one has to. You see, they shamed themselves, regrettably, for the rest of their lives. I support a life-giving organization called Loving Choices Pregnancy Resource Centers. We simply offer loving choices, resources for women who may feel alone or overwhelmed with her life, let alone bringing an additional life into her world. But once she sees her options, she is greatly relieved to know that she is not alone. She will have mentors and resources all along her journey. In my years of talking with and meeting women in our community, I have never met a woman who regretted giving life, either through parenting or adoption. But sadly to say, every woman I've talked with had regret, remorse, and a broken, wounded heart after abortion. So with this said, I am very thankful to have a quorum court who speaks up for these women and children, for this is the reason you were voted upon to be my representative in my county. Thank you for standing up for what is right, good, and equitable for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name's Kathy Glasgow Sparks, and I live in Springdale, Arkansas. Since the beginning of time, women have known when to bring life into the world and when not to. There are over 200 things that can happen to a normal pregnancy along the way. I believe that women should be given this choice. I believe that Washington County is not a pro-life county. In front of you probably sit a full 1/4 of people who have had that difficult decision to make. And their circumstances are not your circumstances. Their circumstances should not be judged. And to assign a label of pro-life to our county diminishes the choice that is made by so many families, a woman individually, alone, or with her doctor, with her husband, with her family. So let's respect that. I think it serves absolutely no purpose in declaring Washington County pro-life. I believe that it's divisive and it's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Citizen comments, come on.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ann Britton, and I've lived in Washington County for approximately 35 years. And I've been in the medical professional as in psychiatric care for 34 years. I served on the Arkansas State Medical Board for 8 years. I served on the Federation of State Medical Boards for 10 years. I worked with my husband, who was a psychiatrist, in a practice here. And I want to share with you that never, ever have I had one woman say that she regretted giving her child up for adoption. But I can tell you many suicide calls that I've personally been involved with women who were not appropriately counseled before they had murdered their child. And that's their words, not mine. So I think what you all are doing is in light of what the founding fathers intended when they signed the Declaration of Independence, that first comes life, and that produces liberty, which gives you the pursuit of freedom. And everyone deserves that equal right for life. It begins at the moment of conception. It's a scientific fact now. It's not as it was back.
I asked everyone to respect who's coming up to speak. We want to hear from everyone.
As far as I know, I've got very extensive experience in this. And, shame on anyone heckling anyone. I just want to say that I think what you're doing is appropriate because science is going to bear out the fact that we've been killing our own children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello. My name is Sarah Gibson. I'm a Fayetteville resident in Washington County for the last 15 years. While I did not prepare public comments, I felt so compelled to come up here and speak with the allotted time. I guess I would like to say I respect your views if you are personally pro-life. How fortunate and privileged you must be to never have found yourself in a situation where you've had to make a difficult decision, possibly for your own health. Regardless of what your personal views are, what your moral convictions are, or your religious beliefs, it is egregious for you to try to legislate that on the constituents of this county. Abortion is health care. It is a decision between a woman and her health care provider. There are numerous circumstances that may cause a woman to seek an abortion. And this resolution does not consider any exceptions or any realistic considerations. Even though this resolution has zero teeth enforcement-wise and is basically a political grandstand for J.P. Jenkins to get out-of-state donations, it sends a very ugly message to pass something like that that is not representative of all of the citizens of Washington County. Do not mix your religious beliefs and your personal beliefs, however I may respect them, in with government activities that impact people in this county. My uterus is not for you to legislate. My reproductive rights are not yours to make statements on as the Quorum Court. Do not tread on my uterus. My fertile grounds are not for your plowing, J.P. Jenkins, your disgusting comment you made in the last session.
Direct your comments over here.
If you are truly pro-life, and if you truly want to see a reduction in abortions, then follow the various backed research that shows what leads to reduction in abortions. Access to birth control and contraceptives, and early education on sex ed. Pass some of those resolutions. Pass something that's actionable with teeth that would actually result in fewer abortions. Address the social situations that plague women in those situations. Be considerate of other women. And I'll leave you with this. 1 in 4 women at some point in their life seek an abortion. Statistically speaking, that's one of you women up here. And maybe it's not you personally, But I guarantee you know someone, even if they don't feel comfortable coming to you and sharing their experience because of your judgment and your stigmatism, we all know a woman who sought an abortion. And I guarantee you it was either medically necessary or a very difficult decision. And irregardless, that was a decision her and her health care provider had to make.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson.
Not government
Thank
officials.
You. We have about a minute left. We have about a minute left in public comments. Come on. We have about a minute left in public comments.
Hi. My name is Lynne Cunningham. I'm a resident of Washington County, and I wanted to echo many of the sentiments that were said here this evening about how inappropriate it is for this body to legislate on the issue of abortion. But I also wanted to point out that this body has no jurisdiction over this matter. It is my understanding that the act cited in the resolution applies to cities, not counties. Furthermore, I have been so upset as a resident to see that you have over and over again failed to take action that I see as your responsibility to protect the lives of residents in Washington County. I'm particularly upset that the CARES Act money was not spent during the pandemic to help those most at risk. I'm particularly upset about the rental assistance funds not being spent in coordination with Fayetteville or Springdale Housing Authority or any of the local nonprofits. To my knowledge, there's no plan to distribute these funds. Those are lives that need to be protected. It's my understanding that this resolution is a distraction and a nationalization of politics that I don't want to see happen in my county. Something I love about Washington County is that we are a very diverse, ideologically speaking county, and I would love to see us work together. Thank you.
Thank you. The time for public comments has ended, but the way the agenda has been set, the next item after the judge's report will be the resolution, and that will again open it up for public comments. With that, we'll go on to item 6, which is approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections on the minutes? J.P. Washington. You recognize?
Oh, no, I just move that we approve the minutes.
With no corrections, the minutes are approved. We'll go ahead to item 7, the judge's report. JP's in your packet. You should have received your disposal report. I will say regarding rental assistance, the Fayetteville Housing, Springdale Housing, Washington County working together to get money out for rent as well as utilities. I think we did have a report at the county services, so we'll make sure that we have another report at that county services meeting. Also next month, I should have a better feel of where we are going to be standing with our Northwest Arkansas Crisis Stabilization Unit. I want to give a large hand if you guys see or know folks who work over there at ERISA or Ozark Guidance, please give them a thank you for working with us and partnering with the county. They were great partners, chose not to re-sign the contract. And so we're working with the state DHS and other medical service providers to continue our Northwest Arkansas Crisis Stabilization Unit. Right now, all our law enforcement officers in, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 counties that we work with are taking those experiencing mental episodes, mental breaks to Sebastian County, which is another one of the state's 4 crisis stabilization units. So again, we should have more where the state and where DHS and where our medical service providers are by next month. And hopefully we'll be ready to go ahead and get that one back open. Also want to recognize our IT team. You guys have been watching them back and forth today, get everything set up. This afternoon, they were recognized being ranked number 4 in the country for their by the Digital County Awards, and this is probably the 3rd year that they've been ranked across the country in the top 10, and this year number 4. So again, salute to our IT department and the work that they continue to do. And clearly, last year they went on full throttle with the pandemic. So again, hats off to our Information Technology Department. Finally, I would like to reappoint Prentice Lee House. Prentice has served on our equalization board, and I'm reappointing him to the equalization board. And so with that, I will entertain a motion to reappoint him to the Board of Equalization. I have a motion to reappoint Prentice House to the equalization board, a second by J.P. Duncan. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, and so we'll get him reappointed, and I think they have their training sometime next week, in fact. So, all right, let's go ahead and move to item 8. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing me, Judge Wood. I just wanted to follow up. Have there been any movement on the insurance claim with the roof on the building that the public defender's on, and also the elevator over there?
Yes.
And then also, do we know how much money has actually been dispersed?
I don't have numbers in front, but yes, they have
Okay.
this movement on that.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to item 8. That would be J.P. Deacons. Counselor, will you read that one by title only?
Item 8 is an ordinance increasing the salary of the county attorney and the county attorney
No,
budget.
we just moved the
Oh, no, oh, that's right.
13 to 8.
Sorry. That's right. Item 13 is a resolution declaring that Washington County is a pro-life county.
Ms. Patty, do you have that one up? I can't see. Yes, okay. J.P. Deacons.
Thank you, Judge Wood. Before I speak to this resolution and make motions to pass, I am going to make a motion to amend. I brought some support materials here to pass around the shoe. If you give me a moment, I'll try to make sure those are.
Is it just one?
It's just one sheet. Well, I better have kept one. I'll just look off yours. You go ahead. I think all justices have got their copies. My amendment is to strike whereas statement number 2, we affirm our belief that God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male, female, and created them. Genesis 1:27, I'd like to replace that with Washington County desires to preserve its right to promotion and expression of its pro-life designation as affirmed by the Arkansas Act 392 of 2021. While I supported the original language of the resolution, I have been advised by legal that it may bring unwanted attention to the resolution, and I don't want to. I want the voice of this resolution to stand, and I don't want any unintended consequences here of opening ourselves up for a fight without having to, and possibly betraying the voice of the resolution.
All right, so with that, we have a resolution.
Make a motion to amend.
And a motion to amend, a second by J.P. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Before we do the, J.P. Madison?
Is this on the resolution or the?
Yes, the
Okay.
amendment on the amendment.
Okay, my comment is not on the amendment.
All right, so we have a motion, go ahead. A motion and a second to amend the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Okay, the resolution has been amended. All right, J.P. Deacons.
I'm so hot. Okay. All right. Well, I think we know that tonight we're going to consider declaring our county a pro-life county, and what I understand is we'll be the first county in the state of Arkansas to give ourselves this designation. So I'm looking forward to other localities following suit. I've had conversations with people around the state, and I want us to know we really have an opportunity to lead with a clear voice here. The whole purpose of this is I want so many fine organizations doing so much good in this county to be recognized. They're doing a lot of great work for expectant mothers and families to get the resources they need to help them choose life. And I've learned so much about so many organizations, and I hope all of you have too throughout all this process. And I've also learned about prospective organizations that are looking to come to Washington County and continue that work and add to it and do some great things. And I think we should all take the advantage of the opportunity to support that and promote these organizations with our voice. So finally, so much is being made about what this resolution is. There's so many people trying to talk and define it. And so I just want to give one more time where my heart's at and what the intention is behind this. So many people say trying to take rights away. I'm trying to take choices away from women. No, it's actually quite the opposite. You know, expectant families and mothers should feel support and love in our community to choose life. You know, I hope we can all agree that even if you can morally reconcile the murder of an unborn baby, I certainly cannot, but if you can, that it should be the absolute last resort, and every resource should be exhausted before that choice is felt like it has to be made. And that's what this resolution is about. And then finally, I'll wrap up by saying somewhere out there tonight, there's a woman in conflict and facing an uncertain future. May she know through the voice of this resolution and our county as a whole, she and her child are loved and that help is out there. Choose life. And I move passage of this resolution. Thank you, Judge Wood.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, go with J.P. Madison and then J.P. Hires.
Thank you, Judge. I think that woman out there making that very difficult decision doesn't want any of our input. At the county services meeting.
J.P. Madison, 1 second. Again, I'm gonna ask the sheriff to start taking folks out. If you cannot hear, you can clap your hands. I see you guys got paper. That's fine. But we got to hear people. We want to hear you. We want to be heard. Respect one another. Go ahead, J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. At our county services meeting, I shared my personal story that my son is adopted. And it was through the gift that his birth mother gave to my husband and me that I was able to become a mother. That was her decision. Nobody made that decision for her but herself. And nobody should ever force a person in that situation to make that decision. What I didn't get to say, because I was considered a member of the public at that meeting and my time was cut off, was that this is not a pro-life initiative. This is 100% a pro-birth initiative. Once they're born, they're on their own. No benefits, no help. We will just make you have that baby and then survive on your own. This is an effort to force one man's religious beliefs on a county, to force one man's views on women. Pro-life, if we were talking about it, the speakers in public comment gave really good examples of what a pro-life initiative would be that came out of this body. Pro-life, just to be really blunt, would be to have a mask mandate in this room tonight. Science would say to have a mask mandate. The coroner texted me before this meeting, 14 people have died in Washington County this month alone from COVID. Who cares about those lives? Do the unvaccinated folks in the audience that are not wearing masks care about those lives? I do. We should be caring about those lives just as much as any other life. But what I didn't get to mention at County Services more than anything was how upset I am that in my 11th year on this body, this is what we have been reduced to. It is, frankly, disheartening. We are calling each other names. I was called names at our County Services meeting. We were booed. A pastor who was giving a prayer was booed. The sponsor of this ordinance has called the people of the city of Fayetteville, the people that live in my district, unhinged leftists. Think about that. If you want to get rid of abortion, educate people and pass out birth control. If you want to legislate on abortion, go to Little Rock. But keep your political grandstanding and your political aspirations out of Washington County's business. We have more important things to do than get everybody upset and mad at each other over something that has no impact. I am firmly pro-choice. I am proud to represent District 9 in the city of Fayetteville, and I feel sure that my district does not want any part of this resolution. So I will be voting against this, Bible verse or not. Act 392 should probably be declared unconstitutional. It also only speaks to municipalities, not counties. So let's get back to the business of this county. Let's pave roads. Let's fix leaking roofs. Let's air condition our buildings for our county employees. Let's keep the CSU open, and let's give those millions of dollars we're sitting on to the people out there who need it. Thank you, Judge.
JP Hires. JP Hires.
Thank you, Judge. I want to start out with, I'm Suki Hires. I'm from Fayetteville, District 11. I am not a wicked detractor, and I am not an unhinged liberal. I'm a mom. I'm a grandmother, and I'm a teacher, and I'm also a community servant. I don't doubt the conviction of those that are pushing this resolution. I believe that you have strong convictions and you would like to end abortion. But this resolution, it's meaningless. It is empty words on a piece of paper. It's political posturing, it's divisive, it's political theater. A feather in the cap for when people seek a higher office than the one they're currently sitting in. On the state level, Arkansas likes to claim that it's the #1 pro-life state. But the fact is that Arkansas and a lot of the JPs sitting here supporting this resolution are not pro-life, but, to repeat, pro-birth. Arkansas is #1 in teen pregnancy. We are the sorry, lost my place. #3 in infant mortality. Arkansas is #4 in child poverty and maternal death, and #5 in the nation for food insecurity. And so if Arkansas were pro-life, I think that we'd see steps taken to tackle those issues. If this court were pro-life, I think that you would focus your energy on tackling some of the reasons that women have abortions, instead of just yelling into the void your opinion on the matter. At the county services meeting, JP Rios Stafford offered an amendment that spoke to some of those reasons. I'm going to repeat them here. I'm quoting from that meeting. It is the policy of Washington County, the amendment she wanted to make. It is the policy of Washington County to support the following: comprehensive, age-appropriate, and medically accurate sex education, widely available access to all forms of contraception, universal health care, affordable child care services, and a living wage. Because I'm sorry, but support and love don't put food on the table. And not one person on that committee even gave the idea a second. So this proves to me that you are not actually committed to addressing the real societal problems that lead to women making such a difficult choice. If this court were really pro-life, we would have allotted the money from the CARES Act to address the food insecurity in our county. We would have dispersed the funds for rental assistance. We would have fought to keep the crisis stabilization unit open. We would have appropriated $5,777 to Ozark Regional Transit a few years ago to assist our low-income county residents in their ability to make it to their doctor's appointments and to the grocery stores. We would have supported habitability standards for our rentals. We would have allowed the public to participate in these meetings at home, on Zoom, during the worst surge of the global pandemic that we have seen yet. So if you're indeed pro-life, please tackle these real problems that are facing the people, the living people in our communities. It is not a county official's job to legislate and interfere with the right to privacy between a woman and her doctor. We're wasting time on this meaningless gesture when we could be dealing with the real problems that we are facing in this county. Our buildings are in disrepair. We have leaky roofs, moldy walls, broken elevators, broken air conditioning in the buildings. Crisis stabilization unit is closed. We haven't allocated the money for rent relief. We are more focused on giving raises to top earners in the county than fighting for the lowest wage workers. So I would beg us to please, I'm voting against this, obviously, but please, let's get past this political theater and get to the business that our constituents elected us to do. Thank you.
JP Rios Stafford.
Thank you, Judge Wood. For those of us, folks who are watching at home and in the audience who this may be your first Quorum Court meeting, I represent District 12, which is where we're standing right now, and down into South Fayetteville. Yes, and JP Hires is correct. The amendment to this that I brought forward, nobody seconded, even though one of my colleagues spoke immediately afterward, almost basically agreeing with what I had to say. And yet, you know, talking a good game is one thing, but when the rubber hits the road, if you're not taking every opportunity to actually support life in this county, what are you doing? You know, I've been on this. I've said sat on this Quorum Court for 7 months now. And during those 7 months, here's the things that my colleagues have voted against. They voted against a habitability ordinance in this county after we've had more than one case in this county where children have died in fires. They voted against using the CARES Act money for food assistance and homeless assistance at the height of the pandemic during the winter. They voted, no one seconded my ordinance to go back to hybrid meetings. There's been a spike in Arkansas in the number of pregnant and postpartum women who are unvaccinated who are in the hospital due to the COVID Delta variant. How is not giving that a second supporting life in this county? We've had 16 days in this county of increased hospitalizations. Meanwhile, we spent zero money to promote people getting the vaccine. How is that promoting life? You know, we're about to get $46 million from the American Rescue Plan. There's a ton of things in there that can promote the lives of children after they're born. New and expanded childcare, early learning services, support for foster care, removing lead paint. But instead, the sponsor of this ordinance, J.P. Deakins, called the American Rescue Plan, quote, an effort by the federal government to exert its force on local governments directed at social issues. There's real things to help real children in there. And so, I'm really tired and frustrated of the rhetoric that does not meet the actions on this Quorum Court. So I'm gonna bring forward my amendment to this one more time. I move that we amend this ordinance to say that it is the official policy of Washington County to support the following: affordable health care, affordable child care, services for disabled children, affordable housing, and a living wage. Thank you.
Second.
All right, there's amendment on the floor to the, J.P. Rio Stafford, you want to change that to resolution? You say ordinance. Okay, so there's an amendment to the resolution, to this resolution. There was a second by, who is it? Somebody? J.P. Madison. Discussion. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. The noes have it. All right. J.P. Washington. J.P. Washington.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I'm going to take a look at my notes so I don't repeat what has been said, but I will say that when I first read this resolution, my initial thought was, oh, wow, here we go with more partisan rhetoric. But because I pride myself in being a person who tries to look at the issue on both sides, I did take a step back to really think, what was the intent? What are we trying to accomplish here? And there are a few things that I have a fundamental issue with. Some of the comments that were made were that the sponsor of this resolution is the voice of Washington County. And I would just like to say that with us having 15 justices, that we cannot definitively say that any one person on this Quorum Court is the voice of Washington County. I think the beauty of this court is that we have 15 people with different thought processes, 15 people from different religious backgrounds, 15 people with different morals and values. So I think that it is an overreach to say that any one person is reflective of the thought process of the county. The ultimate goal was stated to choose life. So my question is, are there other ways to choose life without this resolution? I think we can all agree that this resolution is very controversial, is very divisive, and I think that if the intent is to choose life, that there is a way that we can do that without having a resolution that says that Washington County is pro-life. So have we thought about other ways that the county can support those efforts, either directly or indirectly? Also in the ordinance, it mentions until birth. So my question is, what are the plans for after birth? Once again, is the county expected to support directly or indirectly what happens to a child after it is born? And most importantly, I kept asking myself, what problem does this resolution solve? And as much as I tried to think about it and rationalize and read and go back and watch and do research and all of that, I cannot find one thing or one problem that the resolution in this form will solve. And for that reason, I don't believe that I would be able to support it. So what I would like to offer to the sponsor of this is, if we're serious about being pro-life, let's be pro-life in practice. Let's not just be pro-life by a resolution that really doesn't have any meaning and doesn't have any teeth. So I would ask that the original sponsor would consider, let's put this on the table. Let's think about what we can do as a quorum court for the constituents of our county, considering the fact that Arkansas is one of the top states for maternal mortality. Our maternal mortality rate is 35 per 100,000 births. The national average is 20. That's definitely a problem. That's something that we need to look at. How can we support some of the organizations that were mentioned tonight, Loving Choices? There are other things that we can do without passing a resolution that really is not actionable, saying that we are a pro-life county. So I would just ask if we could just consider tabling this, and I would just like to amend this, that we table this so that we can take a look at this and we can do things that demonstrate that Washington County really is pro-life, not just have a resolution that says that we are.
Second. Got a motion on the floor to table, second by J.P. Madison. Discussion. All right, we'll go ahead and vote. Ms. Patty, go ahead and let's do a roll on that. Roll call. And this is a vote to table the resolution.
Chandra, are you ready?
Oh, to table this indefinitely until we've had a time to look at some actionable steps to support some of the organizations listed and to address some of the other maternal mortality issues.
There's still a second. Go ahead. Go ahead, J.P. Deacons.
I thought it was. Nope.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Patty.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
No.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Evelyn Rio Stafford.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Jim Wilson.
No.
Butch Pond.
No.
Lance Johnson.
No.
Shannon Marty. No. Sean Simons.
No.
Bill Usry.
No.
Patrick Deakins.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
No.
Sam Duncan.
No.
It's not, it fails.
All right. Any other discussion before we go to public comments? All right, public comments. We'll have, I will ask that if you're against the resolution, and then right after that, we'll have someone who's for it. After that, we'll go to those who are, again, against the resolution, and then someone who's pro the resolution. Come forward, tell us who you are and where you're from. Yep, go ahead.
Now it's red. Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Toby Klein. I am proud resident of Fayetteville, Arkansas, proud Washington County voter. I appreciate y'all giving me an opportunity to speak here tonight. I wear a lot of hats. Some of y'all may know me from the community. I try to be out and safe as much as possible. Wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I think that there's something that's been remarkably absent from this conversation, and that would be science. I am a scientist by trade. My background is in neuroscience. My background is in public health. I hold a master's in community health promotion from the University of Arkansas. This fine institution here has taught me a lot of great things about science and to trust science. So I'm hearing a lot of myths and things that I actually talk about in classes, things that I learn about. And one of those is to trust science. So let's get some science on the record. When we call something a miscarriage, The medical name is a spontaneous abortion. We refer to abortion pretty consistently, and yet there's a lot of stigma around it. 1 in 4 women will have at least one abortion during their lifetime. The American Psychological Association, the APA, looked at over 100 peer-reviewed studies, and let me tell you, as an up-and-coming PhD student and a scientist, it's pretty hard to get one of those peer-reviewed citations by your name, I guarantee you. Though that governing body looked at over 100 peer-reviewed citations, 100 peer-reviewed articles, and found that there is no independent correlation between abortion and negative mental health outcomes. The number one feeling that women report after having an abortion, according to that study and several studies that have built up to that, again by a governing body, relief. This here is about an attempt to overreach and to legislate people. What is absent again here is science. If we're talking about protecting women, let's talk about protecting women. Abortion is 11 times safer than childbirth. Others have spoken about how abortion is safer, but again, let's talk about science here. Afterwards, I'm happy for anyone to come up to me. I've got my citations on my phone. I just didn't want to take the court's time while reading them here. I do appreciate your time, and I do appreciate an honest consideration of science. Also here, I think it's important to note that there are folks here who do not identify with a faith at all. And I'm glad that the faith measure was struck from this, but that impact has a lot of far-reaching consequences. It tells folks that come from multicultural, multi-faith backgrounds that Washington County is not safe for them because religious dogma and religious doctrine are going to consistently and overwhelmingly influence and impact their daily life choices. It is a complete overreach and overstep of the court and the Washington County to implement something like this and to pass it. You are saying that Washington County believes this, and that's simply not true. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Silvia. This is in support of the resolution? This is in support of the resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Laura, and I'm a resident of Fayetteville. I want to start off by saying every single person in this room is loved by an infinite God who looked at every single one of our imperfections and said, I love you anyway, and sent his son Jesus to die for us while we spat at and mocked him and cheered for his death so we could be redeemed from our sins. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. These words are from Proverbs 31, 8 and 9, and they sound an awful lot like the inscription on the Statue of Liberty, which says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Do they not apply both to mother and child? Is it not true that these unborn children are voiceless and the mothers needy? We must speak and care for both. Being pro-life goes beyond the accusations that all human beings are involved or to be abandoned after the child is born. No, it means adoption, foster care reform, and participation, emotional, spiritual, mental, and economic resources for expecting mothers. It means doing what we can to provide every solution and resource to the hurting and struggling mother other than killing her child. And yes, it means giving a voice to the voiceless. This resolution stands to emphasize the fact that every human being is of infinite worth, declared only by an infinite God, and is not dependent upon factors that ebb and flow like whether your mother wants you or not. John 15:13 says, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Let us not find ourselves at the opposite end of love, requiring that others lay down their lives for ourselves or cheering on others when they do so. We must reach down our hands in charity to both the mother and child, saving the woman, supporting her, propping up her success, healing her brokenness, and establishing her economic foundations does not require the death of her child. They are not dependent upon one another. This resolution acknowledges that there is a different and better way that preserves both the lives and flourishing of mother and child, and Washington County can shine brighter as a beacon of hope upon its passage. Thank you.
Thank you. This is in opposition of the resolution. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
My name is Maddie. Thank you for listening to me today.
Where are you from, Maddie?
I'm from Siloam Springs. I live in Fayetteville now. So I am 24 years old. Since I was 9 years old, I knew I never wanted a child. Ever, ever, ever. And all throughout my life, men particularly told me, oh, you'll just get older and you'll want one. You'll get older and you'll want one. You'll get older and you want one. And mothers told me about the excruciating pain they go through in birth. The last time at the last meeting, someone on this panel talked about how their daughter was literally split in two and had to be put back together, and did not mention her pain, her suffering, nothing. Just talked about, and at the end, there was a miracle. There was no consideration for the woman, their pain at all. Women are not birthing stations. Women are not meant to just have babies. Whenever I was 21 years old, I was sexually assaulted, and my period missed. The men on this panel will never know the fear of missing your period after you have been sexually assaulted. They will never know. Because I would be given a choice to have my assaulter's child. Thankfully, that did not happen. And first thing, I got my tubes removed. That is a privilege that people do not have. I am 24. My generation is renting. They can barely afford to miss a bill. A child costs $1,200 a month minimum. That is if they are not born with disabilities. That is if they are not born with sickness, not to mention the medical bills. People in my generation cannot be forced to have children. They simply cannot afford it. I look around at the world is on fire. I look at Washington County, there are potholes so big in the streets that your engine would fall out if you hit them. There's a housing crisis. How can you look at this county and look at the people suffering, mass evictions, unlawful evictions, and not deal with those, but think that this is a pro-life county? This will not be a pro-life county until there is adequate health care, until there's adequate education, because I guarantee if our children were learning the pain and suffering women go through in childbirth, they would not be on board with making them give birth. Proper sexual education is pro-life, not a resolution that wastes tax dollars and does nothing in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. This is in support of the resolution. We're looking for someone in support of the resolution. Do we have anyone? Come on. There's somebody in line first. Oh. Yes. There. In support.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak for life for the unborn, as well as life
Give us your name and where you're from.
Oh, Peter Nugier, live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Thank you for the opportunity to speak for the unborn who do not have a voice. These are models of a 10-week baby in the womb. These are the feet of a baby that's 10 weeks in the womb, has toes and feet, well-formed. It's a human being. The baby is a person. So I would challenge this body to speak for life from the moment of conception to the moment of death, and to honor life. If you vote against this resolution, you may have one of these models and take a hammer to it. That's what you're doing when you're voting against the life of the unborn. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. This is in opposition? In opposition of the resolution.
I'm Gladys Tiffany. I'm from Fayetteville. And this morning at 5:30, my fourth great-grandbaby was born. She arrived safe and healthy in spite of the fact that her mother had COVID early in the just a few months ago while she was pregnant, and apparently there's a serious problem with pregnancy when you've had COVID, because there was a lot of concern that the baby would not be healthy, but we're very fortunate that, yes, she is. And so I'm like every person who speaks, I'm not in favor of hurting children at all, and I think that there are no people here who think that children deserve to be mistreated in any way. I do feel like we are coming from very, very different value systems when we talk about what this particular issue means to us. And I really just want to point out that our county has made some choices about the way we want to spend our money that have not necessarily been in favor of this, of life. And the issue that I really want to focus on at the moment is that if this measure passes, we will be forcing our county into litigation about whether this is important, what the value of this is to the county. And that is not something that we really want to spend our money on. We really do need to spend money on the things that do affect life. And we do not want to have to argue this in courts. This is not something that is worth our time, worth our care, worth our attention in any way that does not stop us from pro-life stance in the real sense. That's all I wish to say.
Thank you, Ms. Tiffany. The public comment time is done, unless there's... All right. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Patty, go ahead and do the roll. This is a motion. This is on the resolution. Council, we read that one again.
Pull it up here a second.
There it is.
Oh. This is on the amended motion, which is a resolution declaring that Washington County is a pro-life county.
Ms. Patty.
Chandra Washington?
No.
Eva Madison?
No.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Suki Hires?
No.
Evelyn Rio Stafford?
No.
Willie Lemming? Jim Wilson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Lance Johnson?
Yes.
Shannon Marty?
Yes.
Sean Simons?
Yes.
Bill Usry?
Yes.
Patrick Deakins?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Sam Duncan?
Yes.
Hold on a sec. Make sure that Robert, JP Dennis, you actually keyed in no,
Yes.
but I just wanted to confirm what your vote is. Okay.
Everybody voted?
All right, so that resolution passes. All right, we'll go on to item number 9, which is going to be now, make sure I'm following right. Number 9 is the former 8. Council, will you read that one by title only?
Item 9 is an ordinance increasing the salary of the county attorney and the county attorney budget for 2021.
JP Deakins, oh, one moment. JP Deakins.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I think this position is critical for the county. I think this is appropriate. This brings it within market. I also want to address that, we've heard a lot of comments from the public, and I think also concerns from the justices that all county employees will get consideration when it comes to raises, and I want to promise everybody that work's ongoing. We're getting some really good traction with that, and that will be done. But this is appropriate for this evening, and I move passage of item number 9.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on item 9. Go with comments, discussion. JP Washington, and then J.P. Duncan.
Oh, no, I didn't have my hand raised.
Okay. J.P. Duncan? No? J.P. Madison?
Thank you, Judge. I continue to think that passing this raise for the chair of the Washington County Republican Party is a serious conflict of interest for this body. Since Mr. Lester was voted to be the Republican Party chair for Washington County, the judge let go the chief of staff and made Mr. Lester the chief of staff. Mr. Lester now wears the chief of staff hat and the county attorney hat. He's been given a roughly $60,000 vehicle to drive. And I know, because it's well known, that people around this horseshoe who are Republicans who have expressed perhaps that they're not in favor of this have been called out by their party. So let's just think about this. Is it proper for us to give one employee a very large raise to make him the highest paid county attorney in the state, who also happens to be the chair of the party of the majority that's going to vote for this? If that's not a conflict of interest, we all need to go back to ethics class. I also have to say, Mr. Lester makes pretty clear whose side he's on. If you were at the county services meeting where the Mr. Deacon's resolution was proposed, I thought, just like every other meeting, I could come sit up in the horseshoe as an elected official. Mr. Lester quickly told me, no, I wasn't. When I asked him why he had to be a jerk all the time, he said, I'm not a jerk to everybody, just to you. There was an encounter in the hallway after a meeting where he called me a profane name. There were 6 law enforcement officers that had to push him back on the elevator. So let me ask you, is Mr. Lester really being the county's attorney, or is he being the Washington County Republican Party chair? He does not advise everyone on this body equally. He does not treat us equally. And to give him a raise like this, out of pattern, is a slap in the face to every hardworking employee in this county, especially those who make $11 an hour. So maybe Mr. Lester will think about these comments and stop being less of a bully to everyone in this county and try, he's going to get this raise, they're going to vote for it. Maybe he'll finally start to do the job that he's supposed to do for all of us. Thanks.
J.P. Rios, Stafford.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I'm going to repeat a few of the points that I brought up previously when this came before the Budget Committee. I just don't think it's right to leapfrog this ahead of the work that's happening in the Personnel Committee around the pay ranges for the county's rank and file employees. They haven't been adjusted since 2016. There's 77 county employees at last we checked that make under 15 an hour, some make 11 an hour. And I would like to see that process move forward first. There's a lot of job openings right now out there in the private sector. People have choices right now. There's people who are giving bonuses to fill jobs, and I don't want our county employees, our rank and file employees, to feel like they might be more valued somewhere else. I want us to retain our workforce. I tried to do some research into, because I know this came up before I was sitting on this Quorum Court, and went back and watched the Quorum Court meeting from January 2020. This was before the pandemic. At that time, J.P. Deakins, who had brought this forward back then, asked to table it. His reasoning at that time was, quote, "While I feel there are some issues there to bring that salary to market, I would like for us to handle that in this year's budget process." So what's changed between...
I can speak for myself.
Go ahead. Just talk to me, J.P. Rios.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm quoting a previous
J.P. Rios,
meeting.
talk to me. Just go ahead.
Sure. Judge Wood, I'm quoting a previous
All right,
meeting.
just finish.
The whole Quorum Court approved it at that time by voice vote, and I don't understand what has changed between now and then? Why are we not doing this, handling this as part of this year's budget process now instead of having it as a standalone? So actually, I would like to move to make the same motion that JP Deacons made back in January 2020. I move for us to table this ordinance and handle it in this year's budget process.
Second.
So we got a motion to table item 9 and a second by JP Hires. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Ms. Patty?
Shonda Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
This is the table, the,
Suki Hires. Yes. Evelyn Rio Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. Yes. Jim Wilson. No. Butch Pond.
No.
Lance Johnson.
No.
Shannon Marty. Sean Simons. Bill Usry.
No.
Patrick Deacons.
No.
Lisa Ecke.
No.
Sam Duncan.
No.
It fails.
all right, discussion? Any other discussion? Public comment, JP Johnson and then JP Pond.
Move the previous question.
Well, we got to go to public comments. JP Pond.
Second.
This is, I believe,
Okay, so the discussion is stopped. We're going to go ahead and open up the public comments. All right. Let me go. So as a move to cease discussion by JP Johnson, seconded by JP Madison. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, public comments. State your name, where you from?
Hi, Sarah Moore, Fayetteville. I've said this in previous meetings as well, but I'll say it again tonight. There's been some conversation around compensation in the county and about having a comprehensive approach to that. And that's been mentioned by some of the JPs tonight and the reason that they like to table or postpone making this raise. There have been conversations, in particular by JP Deacons in the past, that we should review this as a part of all of the compensation package. And so I'd ask, as a community member, especially concerned about the message that this does send, that the folks that actually are making the most in our county are being given an early look, being given a level of privilege that folks, especially like we've identified these 77 folks who are making possibly $11 an hour, yearly that is $22,880. I don't know if any of you are living on that today, but that is a very hard income to make ends meet on. And so given the pandemic and the stress that's put on our families, given that we've been concerned about being pro-life, then I think that the way that we show that with our actions is that we take this into the full compensation conversation with the budget. We focus on our lowest paid and our employees that are on the front lines servicing community members every day that are faced with a growing number of COVID cases. And we really show them that we truly value them and we compensate them accordingly. We are sitting on a lot of CARES money. We are sitting on a lot of additional budget money that we could be showing these individuals how we value them and how we value their families. And so I would ask that we do wait and we put this together with the rest of the compensation that we're considering during the budget process, and then we revisit it then. And that way, I understand we could take this in good faith, but then we'll see the action that we've looked at those employees, and then we'll look at all employees together. Thank you.
Public comments. Public comments. Ms. Patty? This is vote on the motion to pass item 9.
And who seconded the motion?
JP Ecke.
Ecke? Okay. Sorry. Shonda Washington?
No.
Eva Madison?
No.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Suki Hires?
No.
Evelyn Rio Stafford? No. Willie Lemming?
No.
Jim Wilson,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Abstain.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Shannon Marty, Sean Simons, Bill Usry, Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke, Sam Duncan.
Yes.
If you could put in J.P. Lemming, can you put in yours? This ordinance passes.
All right. Item 9. Item 10 is the consent agendas. Council, will you go ahead and read the consent agenda minus item 4 and item 9?
Item 1 on the consent agenda is a resolution supporting the construction of a playground at the Brentwood Community Park and Rest Area. Item 2 is an ordinance appropriating $18,000 from the Coronavirus Relief Fund to the machinery and equipment line item in the coroner budget for 2021. Item 3 is an ordinance expressing appreciation for county employees working in the coroner's office during COVID and appropriating $10,454.07 from the Coronavirus Relief Fund to various line items in the coroner budget for 2021. Item 4 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue of $9,087.50 in the Rural Community Grant Fund and appropriating $9,087.50 from the Rural Community Grant Fund to the Round Mountain Volunteer Fire Department budget for 2021.
Yeah. Go ahead, Council.
Item 5 is an ordinance anticipating additional revenue in the amount of $75,000 in the Rural Community Grant Fund for 2021 and appropriating said amount to the Road Department for 2021. Item 6 is an ordinance anticipating additional revenue in the amount of $15,445 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund and appropriating $15,445 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the JAG grant budget for 2021. Item 7 is an ordinance appropriating $21,000 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund to various line items in the Circuit Court 8 budget for 2021. Item 7 is an ordinance, was it 8? Sorry. Item 8 is an ordinance appropriating $65,000 from the road fund unappropriated reserves to the capital machinery and equipment line item in the road department budget for 2021.
J.P. Deakins. There's a motion and a second to pass the consent agenda items. All in favor? Oh, yeah. Public comments, consent agenda items. No. J.P. Lemming.
Can you ask questions about any of these?
On the 4 to 9?
Yeah. Consent
Those
agenda.
are coming up.
Huh?
Those are coming up. The consent agenda items that we just read, or you're talking about the ones that were pulled out?
The one you just read.
Go ahead, what's your comment?
On number 10 is $65,000 that a tractor was sold to the highest bidder. Where did you advertise that to be sold?
I can't tell you.
How many bids did you get?
I can't tell you.
I mean, normally you put that stuff on your disposal report. And I think a new tractor that we just bought, we ought to be putting it out there for everybody to see.
I can't tell you. The bid happened, but I can't tell you where that is on this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Public comments on the consent agenda? Ms. Patty.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Suki Hires. Yes. Evelyn Rio Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. No. Jim Wilson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Shannon Marty. Yes. Sean Simons. Yes. Bill Usry. Yes. Patrick Deakins. Yes. Lisa Ecke. Yes. Sam Duncan.
Yes.
This ordinance passes.
All right, the consent agenda passes. We'll go to item 11, and that's conditional use permit. Council, will you read that one by title only? Oh, we're going to go ahead and put the two consent agenda items on now. Okay, so let's go to item 4, number 4, that was on the consent agenda item. You got that one here? Going to the consent agenda item number 4 that we took off.
An ordinance to establish a grant fund to be called Rental Assistance ERA 2 and to recognize revenue in the amount of $2,268,542.84 in the Rental Assistance ERA 2 Grant Fund for 2021.
J.P. Deakins. Oh, he walked away. Anyone want to pick that one up? J.P. Duncan? Go ahead, J.P. Duncan.
This is just a line item that allows us to distribute grant funds, is my understanding. So we voted it and also added it to the consent agenda. That's how much there was no issue with it at Budget and Finance Committee meeting. So I move passage of item number 4.
There's a motion to approve item 4, seconded by J.P. Usry. In discussion? Any discussion? Public comments? Oh, I'm sorry, J.P. Hires.
Thank you, Judge. I moved to pull this off the consent agenda because there were several questions at the county services meeting about how much funding had actually been dispersed so far and how this particular ordinance was going to change the makeup of how people were able to apply for the funding. Am I correct in what I believe I'm saying here? Anyway, I wanted to bring it back up because I thought it was worth for the public that comes to our regular meetings to hear what this is about. So that's why I asked for it to be pulled off the consent agenda.
All right, any other discussion? J.P. Rio Stafford and then J.P. Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Judge Wood. And I know I asked you at the end of the your judge's report, but I know you said you said yes, but I don't feel like that was really a total answer about how much money has actually. Do we have those numbers of how much money has actually gone out to low-income renters and their landlords through the county's program, through Springdale Housing Authority's program? We've heard numbers from FHA, so we kind of know those.
That's why I shared in the judge's report that would be, because I didn't have that on me.
Yeah.
And so I will have that at the county services meeting. I don't have it.
Okay, all right. And we heard at the county services meeting, and we didn't really get addressed, that the Fayetteville Housing Authority had already been told no, that they would not be getting any additional funds. Is that correct?
They haven't called. I haven't talked to the Fayetteville House, and they haven't called me. So.
All right. And do we have plans for this new $5.6 million that we're getting through the the latest act that was just passed in January?
You're talking about on the rental assistance?
Yeah, and the
It
rental
would be the
assistance,
same thing to distribute that as fast as we can.
Okay, all right.
Through the Fayetteville, Springdale, and the county.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other discussion? J.P. Wilson?
It's my understanding from our committee meeting that this is an additional $2 million that's come into us and that we're just segregating it in a separate account, and it is for the specific purpose of rental assistance. So it would appear that there's, we're just going to have this lined up, queued up to give out as rental assistance.
Yeah, well, J.P. Madison.
I've heard from people that applying through the county system is incredibly challenging. And so, before we start deciding that we as the county can be the ones to administer this, we need to make sure that it's accessible. Because I have heard feedback from folks that say it's very difficult to navigate the system. So we're not really helping people if we put money out there and we don't make it accessible. So I hope that the people who are pushing for the county to do this will actually sit down and try to apply themselves to see what it's like, to see how it can be improved and actually benefit the people that need the help.
Any other discussion? J.P. Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. With all due respect to my colleague, Justice Madison, I agree. Government can be very difficult and frustrating when you're trying to apply for something, but I think that's just government from the federal to the state. I have been trying to get certain things done at the federal level, and it is incredibly difficult. I've been on the phone for an hour and a half with an advocate. She was trying to walk me through the FEMA, the this, the that I had to go through. So I think that is very true. It is indicative of government and all of the qualifications and red tapes that we have to go through, not particularly Washington County. So, but I do agree with her. It can be difficult. Thank you.
Public comments? Public comments?
Hi, Sarah Moore, Washington County. I've sent the JPs an email in regard to the experiences and some requests in regard to the county taking on a third party to administer a big bulk of these rental dollars. And I tried to convey to you the challenges and the hurdles that are existing in the community while the need is still entirely great, and stressing many of our nonprofits and our benevolence funds at churches. I understand and I appreciate the thought and the intent behind the county wanting to create another flow of these dollars so that maybe we could reach more residents in Washington County, and that intent was good. But what I'd like to let you know is that the actual impact in our community is that it's actually bogged down and we're not getting the relief to the people as quickly as we need to. I'm appreciative that the website now does have the option to change the language from English to Spanish, but it still does not have the option to change it to Marshallese, because I have to put in my own sensitive data information. I can't walk through all of the screens, but I have heard the same things that were mentioned by someone on the court, that it is hard to navigate. The very first week, when I was trying to understand how to tell people in the community how to navigate through the system, I reached out to the 877 number and left a message for someone to get back with me. That's been weeks ago. No one has ever returned my phone call. Additionally, in my email to the JPs, I asked for you to talk about how we can communicate and get into the community through advertising channels that this is available, and to get to the nonprofits so that they know how to access this and how to walk their clients through. I have not heard anything publicly conveyed on that, and I'm telling you that hurdle still exists today. It doesn't help us if the dollars stay in the county. I have not gotten with Bobby Hill. I think the last update in a committee meeting, I had heard the number that 60 people had applied. But at that time, $0 had gone out the door. And we understand in new systems that it does take time, as was mentioned, for these processes to get in place. But I'd also like us to consider the fact that we could potentially take on other means for getting this out. I know Fayetteville Housing Authority will very happily go ahead and distribute more monies. I'm sure there are others in the community that reach some of our other populations, like our Marshallese community, could potentially be a part of that solution as well. And I would say, we know the moratorium at this time is lifting, and there are landlords that are in distress because they are not getting payment, and very rightfully so, but they get very creative, unfortunately, because they're in a tight spot and are finding other ways to evict residents outside of just payment. And so it's becoming a crisis time for many in our community, those vulnerable, going back to caring about every life in our community, that I'm really asking that we explore all of these avenues possible to get this aid into the hands of residents as fast as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Public comments. Public comments. Ms. Patty? This is item 4 on the that was on the consent agenda.
Chandra Washington?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Suki Hires?
Yes.
Evelyn Rio Stafford? Yes. Willie Lemming?
Yes.
Jim Wilson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Lance Johnson?
Yes.
Shannon Marty?
Yes.
Sean Simons?
Yes.
Bill Usry?
Yes.
Patrick Deakins?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke?
Yes.
Sam Duncan?
Yes.
This ordinance passes.
Okay, that passes. Counselor Reed, item 9 that was pulled off the agenda.
An ordinance appropriating $82,252.06 from unappropriated reserves in the fund indicated to the fire and extended coverage line items in various budgets for 2021.
J.P. Deacons.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I move passage.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? J.P. Hires, and J.P. Lemming, and then J.P. Hires. I'm sorry.
Could someone explain to me more essentially about what this is? Or, I mean, I don't understand it.
Either J.P. Deacons or Counselor, you go ahead. Either one.
Our insurance carrier last year switched their fiscal year. We've always had, our insurance carrier's always been
Just for Washington County?
no, for anybody that they serve. They switched their system for everybody that they were on. Their fiscal year used to be January 1st to December 31st, and then it switched to July 1st to June 30th. And so when that happened, what that means is we have appropriated money, but there's an addition because we're starting a new insurance term. And the reason our premiums went up was because of the hail damage that we had that caused the leaking on the roofs and all the damage that we've had. We've incurred a increase in that. And so this is money just to get us, we've worked something out with our broker. This is to get us, because we have not and cannot appropriate money in 2022. They have to front that. This gets us through the end of the year. Within the next 6 months during this time, we are going to be putting out requests again and soliciting bids for a new insurance carrier to see if we can find one that can get back on our fiscal year, because our fiscal year is set by state statute and we can't change it. And 2, to see if we can find an insurance rate that is cheaper than what we have right now.
I understand all that. It just says several departments. I just didn't know if it was Washington County, the sheriffs, everybody.
It should be on, if you look down at the ordinance, it should state. Our insurance premium went up, but for the most part, because we'd already appropriated money, we're not having to pay that a large amount. And so there were only some areas that we actually have to have, increase. So you can see, even though they're not listed out, all of the 1,000s are the general fund, such as all the departments under the judge, the assessor, the collector, the sheriff's enforcement side. And then when we get to the 3,000 funds, those are all on the sheriff's side for the insurance.
J.P. Hires.
Oh, thank you. I only wanted to pull this off of the consent agenda because not all of us were here to participate in discussion, and I knew that the public might like to hear about this situation. That's all. Thank you. My questions have all been answered.
Any other discussion? Public comments? J.B. Madison.
I hope that one of the criteria for selecting a new insurance company is that they timely respond to claims. And I like the department that's premium is 17 cents the best.
Public comments? Public comments, Ms. Patty?
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Evelyn Rio Stafford.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Jim Wilson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Shannon Marty. Sean Simons. Bill Usry. Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan.
CUPs.
This ordinance passes.
All right, that ordinance passes. We're moving to item 11, which will be a CUP. Council, will you read that one by?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Sonora Boat and RV Storage.
J.P. Deacons.
Thank you, Judge Wood. As stated, this is an RV and boat storage facility that's wanting to move in right off 412 out in Sonora. The planning board received no comments when I spoke to them. I've received no constituent comments. I want to suspend the rules and move this to second reading.
There's a motion to suspend the rules, a second by J.P. Lemming. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, council, will you read that one for a second time?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Sonora Boat and RV Storage.
J.P. Deacons.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I'd like to suspend the rules and move this to third and final reading.
There's a motion and a second by J.P. Lemming to suspend the rules, move to a third and final reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Council, would you read that for a third and final?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Sonora Boat and RV Storage.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I move passage of item number 10.
Second.
There's a motion to pass, a second by J.P. Ecke. Discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty?
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Robert Dennis.
Yes.
Suki Hires. Yes. Evelyn Rio Stafford. Yes. Willie Lemming. Yes. Jim Wilson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Shannon Marty. Sean Simons. Bill Usry. Patrick Deacons. Lisa Ecke. Sam Duncan. This ordinance passes.
All right, the ordinance passes. We'll go on to item 12. Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Sonora subdivision.
J.P. Deacons. I'm gonna get it.
No problem. Thank you, Judge Wood. This is a subdivision wanting to move in off of 412, just south of the Sonora Elementary School. I think it meets the one residence per acre rule. Planning Board received no comments. I've received no constituent comments. I'd like to suspend the rules and move this to the second reading.
There's a motion to suspend the rules, move to a second by J.P. Deacons. Second motion was J.P. Ecke. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, council, will you read that one for a second?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Sonora subdivision.
J.P. Deacons.
Judge Wood, I move we suspend the rules and read it for a third and final time.
There's a motion and a second by J.P. Ecke to read for a third and final. Council, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? J.P. Dennis, it's been noted. Council, go ahead and read that for a third and final.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Sonora subdivision.
J.P. Deacons.
I move passage.
There's motion to pass, second by J.P. Ecke. Any discussion? J.P. Dennis.
I'm concerned about is giving people time to, they don't hear about this stuff all the time. And then after they hear about it, they say, well, I'd like to have spoke to that. I'm not against it personally, but at the same time, I feel like people should be given a little bit of time to be able to respond. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Abstain.
Robert Dennis. Suki Hires.
Yes.
Evelyn Rio Stafford.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Jim Wilson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Shannon Marty.
Yes.
Sean Simons. Bill Usry.
Yes.
Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
This ordinance passes.
All right, the ordinance passes. We'll move on to item 13. Council, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Fritchie Farms.
J.P. Pond.
Thank you. This Fritchie Farms development has shown to be a good neighbor to that community. They've they've just asked for an increase in the time they operate, and it's been recommended by the planning board. I would move to suspend the rules and put this on second reading.
There's a motion to suspend the rules, to read the second time, a second by J.P. Lemming. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, Council, will you read that one for a second?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Fritchie Farms.
J.P. Pine.
Move to suspend the rules and put this on the third and final reading.
Motion to suspend the rules and move to a third and final, seconded by J.P. Lemming. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, Council, will you read that one for the third and final?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Fritchie Farms.
J.P. Pine.
I might add, there's been an adequate amount of time, and neighbors served notice about this change in the business. Anyone that wanted to protest would have by now. I move to pass.
Motion to pass.
Second.
Second. Is that J.P. Madison? Second? Second, J.P. Lemming. Okay. Discussion? Go ahead, J.P. Madison.
I just wanted to say this looks like a reasonable expansion of the operations, but I just have to say that I'm all for wedding sparklers because that is one of the provisions, because the conditional use permit says no fireworks. So I'm all for wedding sparklers.
Any other discussion? J.P. Rio Stafford.
Thank you, Judge Wood. If I'm not mistaken, this is two doors down from a different development that we approved a couple months ago, which is a brew pub. J.P. Simon and I happened to coincidentally go tour it at the same time, and it's a pretty cool kind of thing they've got there, and it seems like a really good, that whole little area in there seems like a nice little fit. It all kind of fits together. So definitely in favor of what they're doing down there.
Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty?
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Robert Dennis. Yes. Suki Hires. Yes. Evelyn Rio Stafford. Willie Lemming. Yes. Jim Wilson.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Shannon Marty. Yes. Sean Simons. Bill Usry.
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
This ordinance passes.
All right, that ordinance passes. Thank you, Ms. Patty. We'll move on to item 14, which is, Council, will you read that one by title only?
Item 14 is an ordinance repealing Ordinance 2016-68 and setting the salaries of the executive branch.
J.P. Wilson.
The ordinance that we have in the packet tonight would change the remaining 4 countywide officers to 100% of the level 7 salary set by the legislature. The other 4 are already at that level. So obviously that's where we've headed in trying to place people. What it will do is remove the 9-year phase-in, and if a person is elected to one of these positions, they will take that salary right away. Now, I have proposed that this be put in place with our 2022 budget. In other words, it wouldn't go into effect immediately, that these raises would go into effect when everybody gets their raises in January. So that's what I'm proposing here, and I move that we suspend the rules and go to second reading.
Well, we had to do a vote first, find out if you get 10, you won't need that. But so there's a motion to pass.
Yes, I make a motion to pass.
And a second by J.P. Ecke. In discussion. Discussion? J.P. Madison. J.P. Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I wasn't sure this was an appropriation ordinance, so I had a question about that. But I was the sponsor of the original ordinance on this, and it was because Sheriff Helder came to me and said, you know, can we stop having elected official pay be a political hot potato every budget year? And I thought it was wise to reward people based on years of service, but it's not lost on me, given my earlier comments about the Republican controlling, the Republican nature of this court, is that the Democrats in office are already at the max. The only people this is going to bring up are the people in the Republican Party. And so I just think it reinforces the notion of something very strange is going on when we're giving all of the Republicans hefty raises and not thinking about our employees. So I'm going to vote against this because I think that phasing people in is the right way to do it. The state sets a range for pay, a range. Nothing says we have to pay everybody at the max. And historically, we have been pretty stingy with our elected officials, and I'm not suggesting we be stingy. This whole notion was to not be stingy, was to allow people to phase in and be rewarded for their years of service. And I also have to say that some people in the court, J.P. Pond may remember, when the coroner's office was made a full-time office, the coroner's office had been half-time, and when it was made a full-time office, it was incredibly difficult to get the Quorum Court to give the coroner a full-time salary. We had to phase it in for the coroner to be paid like every other elected official and be paid full-time. And so I think just this notion of just giving everybody 100% of the state max just doesn't look really good when we're not giving our lowest paid county employees raises. Thanks, Judge.
J.P. Rio Stafford and Simon.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I know that when this came in front of the Personnel Committee, there were sort of two alternate ideas presented. One was to do what this ordinance does, and the other was an alternative that would, basically accelerate from what we're doing now and bring people to the max over the 4 years of their first term. So in other words, at the end of the first term, they'd end up being in the max. And the argument for that was when someone is first coming in, first elected office, they're still learning how to run the office at the beginning, and this rewards folks for improving. I would be more in favor of the alternative plan that J.P. Wilson pitched at the Personnel Committee meeting, and I was just curious, I don't know if you wanted to answer how you decided to go one direction versus the other from the original two ideas.
J.P. Simon, and then J.P. Johnson. You want to make a remark or comment? Hit your button. Oh, there we go. Got it.
Okay. The only response that I would have is that all four of the people who are currently holding office would then go to that level. All of them have had 4 years of service, so they would be eligible for it in January of 2022 anyway, if we did that. The impact would be in a new person elected in 2 years would not be. And so I felt like that the people of Washington County make the decision of who's going to be the treasurer, who's going to be the collector, and it's up to them to decide who they're going to elect. And once they've elected them, then, we set the pay. But we've already chosen 100% as the level because 4 people are already at that level. And so that's why I said let's just go ahead and make it at that level.
J.P. Simon and then J.P. Pond.
Thank you, Chair. I definitely see the merit of these step raises and merit-based. However, I do know that it is incredibly difficult to find and retain good workers right now. Being a small business owner and relying on them, it's difficult. And I think in Washington County especially, we lead the state in so many different parameters. We're the 4th best place to live in NWA. I think that came out this last week. We lead in so many different metrics that we have to maintain the cream of the crop. We have to recruit and retain them here because it's a short drive up north, 18 miles, to have competitive wages in a similar position with a different county. So if we want to maintain being the premier county and servicing our clients and our citizens the best way, we have to be able to recruit and retain those people that fit the bill. So I think it's important to invest in these positions, and two sides to that coin. I think we definitely need to pay attention to our electeds and then immediately go back and look at everybody in the county who gives their best. We need to show our commitment from top down that we're willing to invest and pay all of the employees of Washington County what they're due, what they're worthy of.
Thank you, J.P. Pond, and then J.P. Dennis.
Well, yes.
Pond, Johnson, Dennis. I'm sorry.
It was. I'm a little taken back that we're still concerned about whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, whether they are chair of some committee or whether not, or whether I might be threatened by their position. As a matter of fact, and I'm going to vote for this. And I agree that the voters are the ones that decide whether the person is worth the job or not. But we have taken 3 months because we had to wait until we could get a simple majority to give the county attorney a raise. I'll tell you what, I've worked with now 3 different county attorneys. And I know how hard they work, the hours they put in. And it's not any 40-hour-a-week job. And I've been right along there to make sure that position, the county attorney position, got that raise. I would have done the same thing with either of the other 2 attorneys I've worked with. And I'll tell you, tonight, because we've waited so long, it just took a simple majority. And I was prepared to vote yes on that attorney raise tonight, but my comment was cut off, and so I assumed you didn't need my vote, so I abstained. But I'm telling you, we need to be fair about the pay. Just like the state legislature is fair about what we as JPs make. And some of us are Democrats and some of us are Republicans. Forgive me, but I'm a little taken aback about the partisan politics. I spent a lot of time on this court being in the wee small minority. And I don't think I showed myself being really disgruntled because I was in the minority and I didn't always get my way. I just never have had my way about everything all my life, and there's sometimes it was a real good thing that I didn't get my way. We just need to conduct ourselves as ladies and gentlemen. I'll get off my soapbox now. Thank you.
J.P. Johnson.
Thank you, Judge. There may have been a political reason that the existing ordinance was passed. And I agree with Mr. Wilson that if the voters elect the people, that the elected officials all ought to be paid at the same level, whether that's a 100% or 90% or 80%, that's for us to decide. But every elected official ought to be paid at the same level. Thank you. And Judge, if we can, this system works like the old one. I lose the
sound?
audio when my mic is on.
When it's on? All right. J.P. Dennis and then J.P. Lemming.
Thank you, Judge. I appreciate it. I took my blood pressure medicine early today. Usually take it right before I go to bed. I'm going to take this before I even go to court. So it did me good for the first part, but it's kind of wore off a little bit. And I've got mine written down, so you can't say I stole from Brother Justice Pond over there. But mine is this. I have never been asked to vote for or against anything or anybody from the Republican Party. I've been asked to vote for things for or against from my constituents, and I consider my constituents District 10, not the entire county. And if anything, I think all Republicans should vote like me, not me vote like them. Because I'm independent enough that I can think it through myself. I don't need someone to tell me how to vote, and I won't ever accept that from a party of either side. But I do resent having that said out loud about me in this committee or this meeting and other meetings. And I'll just lay it out there that way. I think we're supposed to have certain decor. We have rules to follow, and I think we've gotten so far away from our rules that we need to revisit them and either abide by them or not abide by them, one or the other. But just because an event is emotional, it still should go by the same rules. And I don't remember in this term setting any of those rules, so they must have been set in a previous term and a previous, so how long ago were they set? And so I don't mind abiding by them. Most of the ones I have heard have been good, but we need to follow those rules no matter what emotional event is going on. Thank you.
J.P. Lemming.
I just want to state that all this upper class is getting all the money and all this. When it comes 2022, this horseshoe really needs to work on the people on the bottom. We need to get them off the bottom. It's a bunch of BS giving everybody at the top every damn thing they want. We need to start at the bottom and get them off the bottom. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments?
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I would just like to address
Give us your name and where you
My name
from.
is Nathaniel Harris. I'm from Springdale, Arkansas. I would just like to address one of the accusations that was made that I heard while I was sitting in the audience about something funny going on. Frankly, it doesn't matter whether the executive branch is Republican or not. It doesn't matter their political party. This ordinance sets the salary, and then the county will then decide at the election box who is the next chief executive of the officer of the county, and that chief executive officer will then decide who the executive branch will be. So, frankly, this isn't a partisan issue. This is a spending issue, and bringing in rhetoric like that, I don't think is helpful to what is actually being talked about. And also, I question, as not too long ago, this was a Democrat run administration, whether the same rhetoric would be used there. Thank you.
Public comments?
Thank you, Judge Wood and the court. I just have a couple of concerns about
Tell us who you are and where you're from.
Oh, I'm sorry. Beth Koger, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I just have a couple of concerns. I heard someone say something about we should be fair. As of April 30th, there were 127 employees in Washington County who made less than $15 an hour. I think that's a problem, and I'm not sure that I understood everything that was said a while ago about keeping employees, but these employees that we're talking about in this ordinance, if they don't like the salary, then don't run for office. Also, last year I sat here and I heard promises about the employees getting raises, and I've heard that again this year. I'm talking about the employees who make less than $15 an hour. But I sat here and I heard JPs on this court say, tell the department heads if they wanted to give their employees raises, they had to do that out of their own budgets. But they weren't told that before they made their budgets. So I'm kind of worried about that. I hear lots of promises that we're going to take care of that, but I haven't seen it happen. So I'd just like to say that I don't think this sends a good message to our people, the 127 people who make less than $15 an hour and all the other people who make much less wages than these people do. Thank you.
Public comments. Public comments.
Hi, still Sarah Moore in Washington County. My comment is reflective over, sitting with many of you since January 2019, month in and month out. And there's been conversations about, what is fair and how should we evaluate and take care of individuals. And I'm just kind of reminding once again of, those conversations about taking care of these individuals that have been spoken about tonight and the message that it sends to them about how we value them. And hoping that we will think about, instead of continuing to talk, that we're going to address these employees that make some of our lowest wages. I would love to see action and hearing that this is going to be an agenda item that's going to have priority in the weeks ahead. Having some kind of finality and some specific time in the future that's going to happen would probably give some of us relief that that's going to be addressed versus the fact that we have addressed some of these highest wages. And the other thing I wanted to bring forward is that in these years that we've sat together, we, especially when we were faced with the CARES money, we were told that we sat on that because we were waiting for a rainy day. And that we need the surplus of money. And so I understand right now we're in a very positive situation. And so our mindset is different about how we spend, and much in my family too. We start opening the pocketbook and we spend more money. But I would really caution you to really think about, we're going to the top, but you can't compensate these individuals any higher. So what happens in the years to come when the individuals come forward? Maybe the state moves the parameters and we're having this conversation again, maybe they don't. So what mechanisms do we have to reward folks? Because most people want some additional compensation year in and year out of service. They don't tend to want to plateau. So my concern is kind of in our, again, whole philosophy, how we approach these things and whether or not we're staying consistent with saying that we're wanting to be, fiscally, responsible and thinking about how we're spending our money as effectively and saving for that rainy day that we've talked about in the past, as well as compensation in the future for these positions. Thank you.
Public comments? 30 seconds left on public comments.
Sarah Gibson, Fayetteville, Washington County. I just would like to address some of the pearl clutching on the partisan comments, because the perception is that you're more concerned about stuffing the pockets of your committee chair and elected officials while there's literally hundreds of blue-collar workers at the poverty line, and it's clear where your priorities stand.
Public comments. Public comments. Ms. Patty.
Chandra Washington. Eva Madison? No. Robert Dennis? Yes. Suki Hires? No. Evelyn Rio Stafford? No. Willie Lemming? No. Jim Wilson?
Yes.
Butch Pond?
Yes.
Lance Johnson?
Yes.
Shannon Marty? Yes. Sean Simons? Yes. Bill Usry? Patrick Deakins?
Yes.
Lisa Ecke? Yes. Sam Duncan?
Yes.
This does not pass.
All right, we'll go on to next
It'll
month.
go on next month.
Committee reports. J.P. Duncan?
Judge, the committee reports in the packet. Thank you.
All righty. Finance and Budget, J.P. Deacons.
Report is in the packet.
All righty. And Jails and Law Enforcement had no meeting. And Personnel, again, no meeting. Finish of county business, the meeting is adjourned. Oh my God, that's it. But this is in time. That's what they said, right?